Greetings, Rastafari lives. The greatest secret in life is that reality is nothing more than illusion. The physical world does not exist outside of our own belief system and the filter of our own mind. We are in fact subparticles of Jah experiencing creation itself. But as subparticles of Jah, we are swayed over these creations. Everything you have experienced in life, every event, occurrence, object, and person is nothing more than a figment of your own thoughts, beliefs, and words. The problem is, most of us are still asleep. The problem is, most of us are still asleep. When you understand this, your entire world shifts and you come to realize the true meaning of life is thus like a lucid dream. You have total control.
Yes, so that's the It's Your Perspective talk show poem. Yassin, what do you think about that? You heard that for the very first time, I would imagine. And does it give you chills, make you angry, make you happy, make you jump for joy?
Very relatable. It's very deep.
Okay. Well, as you can see there, Yassin Hall is our very, very special guest tonight. Her new book is The Journey Untold. There she has it right there. And so I know that you've been sort of doing the VI touring, hitting places here, there, and everywhere. And I guess this is one of your stops on your travels here. But your new book, tell us all about it. What was the inspiration? How did it come about? Just give us the whole 9 yards.
It's the first book you've ever written?
This is the first book I've ever written. I never thought that I would ever be an author. It was never on my bucket list to become an author. It's just something that I feel that God has led me to, and this is just fate business because everything thus far has been just based on faith.
Right.
So I'm truly blessed to be here in St. Croix. It's a beautiful island.
First time?
Yeah. Well, I came when I was a child, and I came for Carnival.
Okay.
So I only got to, celebrate in the streets.
Right.
So this is my first time as an adult, so I'm taking in all the sights, and I must say it is extremely beautiful.
Okay,
welcome to St. Croix.
Thank you.
Now, your book specifically is on, I guess, mental illness, and someone close to you had some mental illness issues.
Yes,
and
my mother.
Okay.
My mother was a paranoid schizophrenic.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so the book is just about, I guess, growing up as a kid in St. Thomas and your travels and having her as your mother and just dealing with her?
Yes, and what it felt like as a child from my perspective, what it felt like to be her child, and what it felt like to be bullied and just tormented because I was her child. And it made it very difficult, but as I grew older now and I've come to realize that instance that I went through with my mother is actually the foundation for all the other things that I've been through in life to have made me stronger and becoming the woman that I am today.
Okay.
Are you the only child?
I'm the only child. Yes.
Okay. Right. So is your mother still alive?
No, my mother. This is actually the 4th year anniversary celebration of my mother's death. She died of cancer on January 6th. And her birthday is actually this month as well. So
oh, really? Okay.
This book just happened to come out the month of celebrating her death.
Okay.
So it's in honor of her.
Okay.
And my mother's name is Bernice Simmons.
Okay. All right. Great. Going back as a young girl here, so kind of enlighten us a little bit about, I guess in more detail, like how was it, having a mother that was struggling like that?
It was hard. To put it into perspective, it was torment. It felt like it was mental suicide every single day. Like she was alive in physical form, but mentally every day she would just commit suicide. To put it into perspective so people could really understand the true depth of what it feels like.
Right.
1 minute she's lucid and she's my mother, and the next second at any other time she's speaking this strange language that she created on her own, and then she's gone. So as a child, not understanding what is going on in my mother's mind, I tend to have felt like, what is it that I caused my mother to go through this? Because there was no name for it at the time. There was no label for it at the time to say this was mental illness. as a young child, my grandparents would tell me that, oh, your mother is just sick. So I'm thinking, okay, at some point, give her a pill, some bush tea, something, get my mother back. But that never happened.
Right.
And what was really devastating for me is my mother, one day she was my mother and she would call me by my name, and the next day she's referring to me as that child. She no longer, had that connection with me that I was her child.
Her child, yeah.
So I just felt like it was tormenting. Like, I'm watching my mother every day, but you're not my mother anymore.
Okay.
Was it any point in time that your mother was institutionalized, anything like that?
Yes, she actually had her nervous breakdown in front of me, and I was the only one that she broke down in front of, besides the police officers and the guy that comes to Baker Act you.
Right.
So after that, she was institutionalized, and she came out because they could only hold you for so long. And since my grandmother was strong enough to take care of my mother, she came out every 72 hours. And once she got off her medication, of course, we had to go ahead and put her back into the hospital. So yeah, it was a lot of times that she was Baker acted and put on the medication.
Okay.
Was this in St. Thomas or up in the States?
This was in St. Thomas. All of this happened in St. Thomas.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, I look at you and, you're probably no more than 18 years old. So, so this is just going on all your childhood and into your early adult?
Well, I would say the symptoms started that I noticed because, as I said, the book is written from my perspective.
Okay.
For the more medical terminology and how severe her schizophrenia was, my grandmother was the one that had to deal with that aspect of taking her to the hospital, getting the court orders, and really could put a diagnosis on my mother's mental state.
Okay.
The book is written from my perspective as a child, not having a voice to explain how that felt as a child and what experience it did to me as her child, dealing with a mother with schizophrenia. And when you have an island full of people that are uneducated and unaware, I should say, of what mental illness is, they kind of categorize you as, because your family member has mental illness, you have mental illness too. So I never felt like I had that separation of my own identity. I was always labeled as her crazy woman's daughter.
Okay.
And that's really painful to go through as a child. Not even, you're trying to, as a child, you're trying to gain your own individuality, your own acceptance into society. But how do you do that when you have this stigma on you that you could be crazy too because of your mother?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
So how did that build your character now today that you're here now and you can look back and see that you had to go through that fire? I mean, it wasn't something that you wanted to do, but
No.
it was ordained for you to do.
Right.
And you're here now today.
Right.
So
It prepared me
how
for
that
a lot.
right? You could tell us about that journey a bit. That I know it was some highs, I know it was some lows.
Yes. Seeing my mother go through her mental illness, to me, is the lowest thing my mind can tolerate.
Right.
There is nothing else in this entire world that can hurt me lower than that. And it taught me a lot of how to get up from the struggles of life that life put me through. I almost lost my life twice, and once almost at my mother's hands. So going through those situations, I always had to fall back and, well, at least it wasn't as bad as how the people in the Virgin Islands treated you, or it was as bad as watching your mother go crazy. So you better get up, Yassin, and do what you got to do.
Yes, sir.
So not realizing until I wrote this book that instance was the foundation for life that I was about to go through and have to get back up from in order to make it.
Okay.
Now, as an adult, Justine, dealing with a schizophrenic mom, have this made you want to work in that field, or have you make you want to avoid that field?
Before this book, I never wanted to talk about my mother's mental illness. If you asked me, oh, if, you know, in social media I put up pictures of her from before. And people would say, oh, I know your mother. She used to sit on the waterfront by the station and just sit down in the water and talk to herself. Whatever happened? I literally would like bow my head and mumble, I don't know, she just went off, that's all. But now I can stand up and sit up proudly and say, yes, that's my mother. She had paranoid schizophrenia, and I'm talking about it now in my book. You know,
Okay.
so and now I've always had that pride for my mother because she is my mother and I love her. She's my DNA running through my body.
That's right.
But the situation of how they treated me and how they treated her is what I was ashamed of.
Okay.
So now I'm no longer ashamed of it because there's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to mental illness. When you have come to accept that this is your life and this is the life that God has given you, you have only two options. Either own up to it or let it get you down.
Right.
I chose to own up to it. This is what it is. To me, mental illness is a normal part of life. Everybody have their form of crazy.
A man once tell me, you know, all of us are bathing, but once you stop seeing bathing now, you start to wonder, oh, it's super crazy all the time. He was just bathing, and now
Exactly.
he understand me. So, so Yassin, I know this has been a road. This has not been an easy road for you at all.
No.
What do you have any family members along the way to help you along besides your grandmother or anybody like that to help you, to assist you, to talk to you, to counsel you, to just comfort you?
My grandmother kind of took, when my mother was Baker acted, the courts had to decide who was going to take care of me. And pretty much my grandmother, she was destined, she was like, that's my daughter's daughter, I'm going to take care of her, but she also needs a male role model. I remember at the time that they was asking my dad, and my dad said no, he couldn't do it because he was trying to deal with himself, dealing with my mother. Because that's hard for a man who loved my mother to deal with.
Right.
So my uncle, who does not have children of his own, he stood up to the plate, which is Attorney Samuel Hall Jr. in St. Thomas. He stood up to the plate and said, I will be a father figure to her, and I will take on parental custody of her as well.
Okay. Okay. So you have kids? I mean, you know, how are your kids dealing with all of this? I mean, they got a chance to know their grandmother to some degree?
Well, my oldest son is probably the only one that knew her, but not know her, if you understand. He is the only one that have seen her.
Okay.
But the other children, I raised them in the States because I didn't want them to go through what I've been through. I know what it feels like to not have your own identity and for you to be characterized under somebody else's umbrella because of whatever they're going through. I wanted my children to grow up in life forming their own identity, and that's it. So
Okay.
I raised them in the States, and the oldest one was born, two of them were born here, but I took the second one when he was 6 months old.
Okay. And he has. I mean, does he have like an image of her in his head?
Yes, he's
Okay.
seen her before. He's
Okay.
seen her many times. He's
Okay.
the only one that could probably have an image of how she looks.
Okay.
The other ones will just have to go with the only picture that I have of her.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is your son like dealing with the whole thing? I mean, does he have questions? Is he you know, any concerns?
He has concerns. He has had his own strategies in life that he has had to cope with. My oldest son was actually shot 5 times in 2009.
Whoa.
Yeah, and we've all been trying to encourage him to have gone to therapy to deal with that in itself.
Okay.
But I found that men are more stubborn to go and admit that they have a problem. It's more stereotypic that men should be tough, they shouldn't cry, they shouldn't feel, they should just cope and deal with whatever. So in an instance with men, I found in studies and from my own experience that they tend to go to substance abuse or alcohol to deal with their problems instead of talking to someone about it, because if a man talks to somebody about it, oh, they're being a punk or they're being weak. When in actuality, you're being strong if you talk about your feelings, not weak.
Yes. And so, you know, how far back did you decide to write a book? I mean, Was this like 5 years ago, or
No.
this was a long time in the making?
No, it was not. This book literally started writing in June, and it went to print right before I got on the plane.
Oh, really? Okay, okay, okay.
So it's like I said, this book has just been faith-based. I wrote the book. I had to go to court for my other grandmother, which is on my father's side. She passed away, and I had to go to probate court to fight to keep her land in the Virgin Islands and not be sold to a private company.
Okay.
And during that court case, it happened to be on the week that she actually made her birthday anniversary.
Okay.
So listening to testimony and watching videos of her for the first time after her, this is like 2 or 3 years after her death.
Right.
It was very painful in itself. So I decided, and I couldn't, because I was one of the plaintiffs on the case, I could not move from in front of the judge sitting on the bench, sitting on the chairs in front. And as much as I wanted to just run outside and bawl, I was instructed that I have to sit there and hold in my emotions as best as I can. So the person in me, who I always am, said, you know what, if I am going to sit here and go through this pain of dealing with the loss of my grandmother and dealing with watching these videos that I've never seen of her diminishing in health, I'm going to push through this pain, and I'm going to also start writing the book about the pain that I went through with my mother.
Okay. Okay.
So for 7 days, I sat in that courtroom, and they thought I was writing notes, but I was actually writing my book while crying in court.
Okay. Okay. So you did this in June, and just before you came here, it was print and...
It was printed, yes.
Right, okay.
My co-author is Loanne Sewer, so as she would put it, I did a brain dump of everything from start to finish.
Right. Okay.
And she incorporated it into a way that the reader could actually feel the emotion and feel the hurt and the pain inside and all the tribulations that I've been through and got up. So I could sit here and tell you, oh, my mother was crazy and I hurt, but she turned the words into how I really and truly felt. When I saw the first draft, I was like, you sure you wasn't here? You know? So, yeah.
So she had a real good insight.
Yes.
You know, I mean, she took your emotions and kind of made it, I guess, user-friendly in a sense.
Yes, so the reader can feel.
Okay.
And that takes a lot. To me, that takes a really creative author.
Okay.
Because she's also my cousin.
Okay.
So she saw a lot of the bullying, and she and her sister Zenzi actually have come to my rescue many times when the kids were bullying me. So she kind of had to take the personal side out, and I think it had to be a really creative writer to take the personal feelings out.
Okay.
And turn this story and just turn this story from an author's perspective into so that the reader could feel and just have emotions and be there. Like, it's written where you can put yourself in the situation and see yourself as that child 9 years old, 12 years old, 16 years old, and now look at her as an adult.
Okay.
I've been told it's a very powerful and moving and emotional book.
Okay. Okay. So you've been touring around the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, I guess St. John maybe, and then you're here. And I mean, are you tired? I mean, are you tired?
Team No Sleep, go!
And I mean, you look like you're wide awake. So I guess it's good. You're getting some motivation from the book, and just I guess being here and all that too. So
it's for a good purpose. So I'm going to keep on going.
Okay.
My motto is let's end the stigma and end the taboo with me.
Okay. Okay.
So how long you plan to be here?
I'm going to be in the Virgin Islands until the 28th. I'm on St. Croix today and tomorrow. I'm going to be at Undercover Books tomorrow from 3 to 4:30. So come out after the Martin Luther King holiday parades and come check me out. And then I'm going back to St. Thomas. I'm talking at Crank School on Tuesday. I'm talking to the students for Career Day. And then I'm talking to Ivana Eudora High School students, 10, 11, and 12th graders. On the 21st, I'm on various radio stations. I'm having a formal gala. Everyone has to dress semi-formal. It's free to the public. And that's going to be at the VI Council of the Arts.
Okay.
And the last book signing is on the 26th that's for St. Thomas, 26th at the Owl and the Seahorse from 3 to wait, I think it's from noon to 4. I have to get back with you on that one.
Okay.
But it's all in Seahorse at Crown Bay, and then the 26th at the library in St. John.
Okay.
You haven't done a book signing in the States, anything like that?
Not yet.
You plan to?
Yes. My next stop on this tour is in Atlanta, and I'm shooting for March, but I have to see. I might need February to recoup.
Okay. Yeah, I got you.
And then I'm going to Maryland, New York, D.C., and Virginia in the summer. And then I'm coming back to the Virgin Islands to see what the lawmakers and any change has been done from my visit here, this trip.
What legislation you looking at right now?
Well, right now, in the Virgin Islands, Mental Illness Month, the former Governor DeYoung, he signed into proclamation that March is Mental Illness Month.
Right.
Which is great, because now we have a whole month dedicated towards mental illness, and then the mental health department does a lot of stuff for the community. But I want to take it to another level, because you can make awareness to the community, but the children still don't have a voice. What is happening to those children who are dealing with parents at home that have some form of mental illness? Who is their voice for them?
Okay.
And how do we change the taboo? And in my opinion, I feel that we have to change the taboo with our next generation.
Okay.
So with awareness, just like how they have a drug-free week, I want to implement a mental illness week, where every day that week the kids either do like a project or an essay. They come in my daughter's school, I implemented with a Grouch from Sesame Street.
Right.
Okay.
He's the mascot for mental illness for that week.
Okay.
So the kids get to wear like funky hats and design funky hats, and the kids win like scholarships or free skating ring or pizza or whatever for the most creative hat worn. The kids who wrote the best essay on depression or anxiety. And these are not things that you take away from the curriculum. She did this in English class. All the English classes were chosen to do a specific 16 forms that involve mental illness. So that each English class was asked to do one of the forms, and the best essay written was brought out. And why this is really important is they bring in counselors to evaluate these letters and these essays that the children are talking about. And out of those essays, you can determine which child is having an issue with mental illness at home.
Oh,
And
really? Okay.
Yes, because of
Okay.
how deep it's written.
Okay.
Because that way you can know. My daughter's in middle school,
Okay.
and by that time they're very expressive
Yes.
about their emotions.
Yes.
In no form.
Yes.
No filter whatsoever. They just
Yeah. Just let it go.
So, in some cases, in one instance in particular, there was one kid that was talking about death and suicide and killing and stuff like that. And thank God they brought in this counselor to diagnose it and say, well, there's a sign here that's something with this kid. They don't intrude in your family life, because one thing about the public school system up there is, if they're counseling the children, that counseling is for the children. They're not going to contact the authorities or whatever
Right.
to intrude in your home. Then that would not make the children feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. So when that letter came out and they found out who wrote it, the counselors kind of like pulled him aside and asked him, they were professional about it. I don't know what happened, because I couldn't be in that session,
Right.
of course, but they were able to distinguish and get the child to talk about why he wrote something so deep. What was going on at home. Like, of course, I don't know what happened in the session if they got to the bottom root of it, but at least they were able to know that these children are thinking about these thoughts from
Yes.
that young. And it's important that they know and distinguish who is having what sort of emotions at that age.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it's just a matter of bringing the community aware, and these counselors aware of the types of children's minds they're dealing with at this adolescent age.
Okay.
So I want to implement that in all the schools, elementary, middle school, high school, all the public school and private sectors, where it's a mandatory curriculum that they intervene mental illness week into the school system.
Okay. Have you talked to any of the senators yet or anything about that?
I have brought it up to Millen Young. Janet is her first name, I think.
Yes.
I brought it up to her, and I want to make a call out for Cliff Graham on
Okay.
Monday to see if I can get a meeting with the senators before I leave, so we can start this process of getting this week implemented into legislation.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like most most things like Mental Illness Month and
Breast cancer.
Breast Cancer Month. These things should be not once a year, but year round.
Right.
I mean, there just needs to be a much greater push year round in the spotlight. Not spotlight for 1 month, but a spotlight for 12 months.
Right.
Because this is very serious.
It is. It is. 1 in 3 Virgin Islanders suffer from mental illness. So we are 3 people in here. So one of us in here has some form of the 16 forms of mental illness.
Yes.
I already have ADD, so it's just to figure out what do y'all have.
Is that really the ratio for that? 1 out of 3
in the Virgin Islands, yes.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
Yes, it's
Interesting.
high.
Yeah, it's very high. That's very high. Yeah.
And it's some form of mental illness the forms of mental illness does not make that you in our what we say here crazy or para. Like depression is major. I cannot possibly see how some form of depression has not hit some Virgin Islands at some point here.
Yes.
This place is rough.
Yes.
The things that you have to deal with on a daily basis will put anybody into depression.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
That's
for
why I keep-
anyone to say that they don't have depression in the Virgin Islands, no.
Yeah.
I mean, a week on vacation, you will be depressed at some point one day.
Yeah.
Between
Yeah.
the heat and the power and the bills and the cost of food,
Yes.
those things can add up and cause you to go into a state of you just can't handle this anymore when you're living day to day from a paycheck.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
financial is huge. That can cause a huge depression.
Yeah.
I said we are miracle workers in the Virgin Islands, man. 'Cause we make 0 into 1 every day. You know what I mean? So.
Let me ask you too. So how are you holding up? I mean, you've been doing this. Are you holding strong? I mean, in light of the book signing and everything going on, are you holding up good?
Well, the first day I got here, I did suffer from exhaustion. Because prior to coming here, I am a dance mom and I'm also a full-time mother as well. I have the 2 teenagers at home.
Okay.
So in preparing for this, I also have my online boutique store. So I kind of had to put that on automation.
Okay.
So I had to work like 36 hours straight to get everything working so that I can just only focus on the problem at hand, which is mental illness awareness in the territory.
Right.
So when I finally arrived here, my body just pretty much went, look,
Yeah.
if you don't give me some sleep right now, we're going to have problems.
Okay.
So I wasn't drinking a lot of water either. So
Okay.
But I'm good now.
Feeling good?
I'm
Okay.
I'm tired, but I'm good.
Okay. Okay. So I think before we started this evening, you wanted to maybe read something from your book. There was something that in particular that just wanted to share.
Yeah, let me see from which part. Okay, I'm going to read. This is a part that before today, I'm going to try. Let's see. I think I've gained some strength from doing the tour and speaking to other people. And I think I've gained enough strength that I can actually push through and read this paragraph. We're going to see. I have not been able to do it thus far.
Okay.
Without some form of
Yes, I.
big balling. But I want to believe that even if I do it with emotion, at least that the audience will know it's sincere. But I just think that it's something that I need to do to
Right.
see
Okay.
if I can do
Yes,
it.
I.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. During the summer before I turned 13, my grandmother and my mom were having a heated conversation because my mother wanted to go somewhere and Mama thought it was not a good idea. I was somewhere in the living room while this was occurring, and all of a sudden my mom glanced at me with a strange look before heading out the door, which made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. It was really eerie, and I was very afraid of what was going through her mind. I think my grandparents also sensed that Mommy had gone into a pretty scary place mentally because they were acting very overprotective, and my grandmother was pacing and praying throughout the house. My grandmother and grandfather kept me away from the windows for the rest of the afternoon, but I can tell that they were afraid about something totally unknown to me. It was like the calm before the storm.
Okay. So you made it.
Somewhat. I'm choked up, but yes.
Okay. Okay. Do we need to take a little break or anything just to catch? Okay. Okay. So that's a soft cover book.
It's a paperback. It's
Paperback,
also
I'm sorry.
available on digital.
Okay. Okay. Just to kind of let our viewers know, like, where they can get the book, that kind of stuff. Any kind of, that kind of demographic kind of stuff, I guess.
Okay, you can get the book at journeyuntold.com, and through journeyuntold.com you can get it on Kindle. It's also on Amazon, and you can get it through the website. You can get an autographed copy or a non-autographed copy.
Okay. Okay. So just kind of continue on here with the mental illness. So you're trying to get some legislation to sort of get things improved here. But overall here in the Virgin Islands, mental illness is kind of overlooked. And do you think that something will happen positive with dealing with the senators?
I think so. I mean, we have to start somewhere.
Okay.
And to me, starting with the youths having a voice, as a youth myself going through this, I know what it's like to not have a voice when you have somebody that's suffering at home.
Okay.
And I also went through my dark depression area where my mom had a nervous breakdown. So then I was thrown into the mix of having a new mother, my grandmother become my mother.
Right.
My grandmother was 52.
How old were you at this time?
I was 12.
Okay.
So my mother went from being my mother, my grandmother now is my mother, and then months later my grandfather passed away from a heart attack. So, and being the only child, I had my grandmother dealing with her own grief. She's now having to take care of her mentally ill her mentally ill daughter, and now become a full-time mother to a child that's going through a segment where she doesn't know what's going on.
Okay.
It's just like I'm thrown into a pot and I don't know how hot this pot is.
Right.
And then all of a sudden my grandfather passes away and I feel totally alone. I don't feel like I can turn to my grandmother because I'm seeing her going through grief. And I pretty much went from being a straight A student to an F student, just going to school. My body was going to school, but my mind was just gone.
Right.
And I felt that if I had a voice or a counselor or a teacher that noticed the fact that this young lady is not acting like she normally would. She's not studying, she's coming in, she's failing the test, she's not doing her classwork, but nobody's asking me
what's going
on. And on top of that, I'm not going to willingly at that time, I'm not going to willingly go up to somebody and go, oh, my mother crazy. You know, they're going to be like, something wrong with her.
Yeah.
You know, so when you deal, and then the kids were bullying me in school, so I just felt like I didn't have an out anywhere to turn to. So I feel that someone needs to be a voice in order to change this generational gap of awareness and the stigma.
Okay. That
the children are suffering in silence, the parents are suffering in silence. Who gets their voices heard?
But okay. if again, Yassin, if nobody comes out and says anything, the teacher, I mean, you're right about the point that the teacher should have stepped in. Somebody should have stepped in and asked you or come to your aid and ask you what's going on. But at the end of the day, they got 30 kids to deal with too.
Right.
You understand me? So it's a two-way street.
Right.
I look at it as a two-way street.
Well, if they had, and this is another thing that I'm going to try and do afterwards, I think teachers and counselors also need to take a mental illness awareness course,
yeah, most definitely,
so that they can be able to diagnose a child that's going through depression in advance.
I have to remember too, in the Virgin Islands, we cannot put that on the back burner because we don't have the component, the facilities to deal with it here.
Exactly.
You know, we take these things for like, okay, we just sweep them aside, chuck them up as you said, put them in for 72 hours and put them back out again. You know, so it really has to take a holistic approach about this whole issue.
I look at it as a full circle type of thing. Like if you bring awareness into the schools, and the counselors are trained to be able to understand what they're reading out of these essays that the children are reading.
Right.
They know that they have a problem at home. They can suggest and call in the parent and go, is there a problem in the home? If the parent says no, there's nothing you can do about it. The parent, sometimes when you go to depression, you don't even know that you're going through it.
Yes, yes.
So, but it will trigger that parent to understand that their child is suffering from something.
Yes.
So it's a start.
Okay.
It is definitely a start to open the dialogue and the communication of mental illness, because the point is, if you deal with depression at an early stage, you have saved that person from going over the edge, and you've saved that person from being on the street.
Right.
And the more you save, the less we don't need the facility.
Definitely.
Okay.
So we already don't have the room. So we need to focus on what can we do to help the public
Be aware.
know the signs of depression, know the signs of the 16 forms of mental illness, to go out, get the counseling that they need, and get them the help before it's too late. That's the key.
That's the key. Okay. So when you were I guess at your darkest moments, who did you turn to sort of guide you and help you?
Well, my grandmother, she did her best. Like, she tried to teach me how to cook. That didn't work because it still ain't working today. So basically what she kept on trying to do was to connect with me. She tried cooking, failed. We tried gardening. I killed every plant. And then she's always been a phenomenal seamstress. And she always made my school skirts. And when she reached a certain age in high school, shin-length skirts were no longer cute.
Okay.
I was already being bullied for my mother's mental illness. I was already being traumatized. The thought of just going to school wearing a long frock, I did not need the extra. So I remember turning to her and asking her, can you please make my skirt shorter so I can at least blend in with something? As I was already sticking out like a sore thumb. And she battled with me, being the grandmother that she is, and being the stubborn one that I am. She finally gave in and she said, okay, well, she said it sarcastically because she just had enough of me asking. She's like, you know what? If you want a short skirt, make it yourself. Okay. And I said, well, okay, show me. So she wasn't ready for my reaction. She was not. So she was like, she started to show me and I picked up on it. So she started teaching me how to do the pleats. And I did the pleats and I was like, well, I want to make it this way. And she saw that, okay, I'm not going to stop her because there's a connection here. I got to her.
Yes.
I got to her somehow. Now, how can I continue to get to her to bring her through? So she allowed me to use my creative freedom of making school skirts. And in making those school skirts different, the kids who used to bully me started saying, well, oh, I want one of those skirts too. Where you get it from? And it's like, oh, I made it. So the stigma was slowly coming off. And I was now building an identity of my own where I was the go-to person to make for these fancy school skirts.
You're becoming accepted now.
Yes.
Yes.
So to get me out of that slump, she would tell me, well, you can't make a school skirt until you finish your homework. You can't make a school skirt until you study for this test. So in her doing that, and hence my love for fashion and why I became a fashion designer, is this love of fashion that got my attention. And it's always been the foundation to bring me out of the stumps that I've been through.
Okay.
Fashion has done that.
Okay. I wanted to ask you too, one of the words you mentioned a couple times in conversation here is this word bullying.
Yes.
And we all know bullying is just something onto itself too.
Yes.
And so can you talk a little bit about bullying? I mean, just the fact that, kids taking advantage of you, but I mean, how did you deal with that? I mean,
when you have a mother, I can only speak from the experience that I experienced. When I have a mother that's mentally ill and she's sitting on the steps when I get off the school bus and she's talking to herself and the whole school bus starts teasing you, calling Crazy Mary daughter, it puts you in a whole different perspective inside yourself to where you no longer even feel that you no longer even know the person that's inside anymore. You put yourself inside to where you hide your emotions. You have no choice but to hide your emotions so that they can stop bullying you.
Okay.
You don't want to show that they're getting to you.
Yes.
Because then the bullying gets even worse. So I put myself into this invisible shield that I'm fine, just to put up a front to cope. But once I got home, me and the pillow were best friends.
Okay.
I would just bawl.
It was just comfort knowing you got out of that environment.
Yeah, I was just glad to go home finally.
Okay.
I love learning and I love school, But I hated to go to school because I was bullied, and I know that anywhere, if I got off the bus or I went any place, my mother always, even though she didn't associate herself with me mentally, it's like she had this motherly instinct that she was my mother. So
Okay.
she would follow me everywhere. And I just felt like, oh God, can I just get a break? I mean, like, it couldn't stop.
Okay.
And I was bullied from fourth grade when she first started showing signs all the way up to 10, 11th grade.
Okay.
Like every day.
Yeah, bullying is a big thing. Still goes on. It was going on when we were going to school here and all that stuff. And it seems like it's got where now they added
Cyberbullying.
cyberbullying to it too. So online they can be poking fun at you, and people take their lives. They can't take it anymore. They take their lives.
Yes.
From that kind of stuff. It's somewhat.
And for those cyberbullying, I recommend that parents take control of their children's cell phone, because it is not their children's cell phone. It is your phones that you let your children borrow.
Yes.
So you need to go through your cell phones and learn these apps that these children are going on to, so that you can protect your child from cyberbullying.
Okay.
I'm the mother FBI. I know every password, and I will take your phone with a quickness.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
because it's my right. I pay the bill.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. Yassin Hall is our guest tonight. We're going to take a quick break, and we're just going to kind of continue on a little bit more. This is the It's Your Perspective talk show, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tonight is Sunday. We're doing a special show for her. She's in town doing a book signing, and we'll be right back. Stand by.
Hello, may I speak with Yassin, please?
She is on the air. She's hearing you right now.
I'm sorry?
We're on the air right now. She can hear you. You have a question for her?
This is her co-author, Loanne. She just sent me a text to call in, and so I wasn't sure where I was calling.
Okay, you reached the right place. She's hearing you. She's over here smiling. If you look on your screen, you should be able to see her right now.
What show are we on, just so I know?
This is the It's Your Perspective talk show.
Okay. Okay, hopefully you can hear me all right.
Yes, you're coming in loud and clear. You're coming in loud and clear. You have a comment or a question?
This is actually the co-author, Loanne Sewer.
No,
She's
I'm
on
one
there.
of the writers of the book.
Okay, this is who that.
and so
Okay,
she asked me to
okay,
call in. Yes.
okay. Well, thanks for giving us a call. How you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
Again, my name is Loanne Sewer.
Okay. And you assisted with the writing of the book?
Yes, I did. And actually, you're coming in a little broken, so I'm hearing every other word. Yes, I worked with Yassin on bringing the book to fruition. She brought her story to me, and I was able to put it into a form that we could share in a way people would enjoy reading. And I was very happy to be able to help her tell her story on a very personal level, but in a way that people can relate to, because she's very authentic in sharing her experience watching her mom struggle with mental illness.
Is this was the first time you did anything like this, Luann?
Hello?
Yes, Luann. This is Soup. I was asking you if this is the first time that you did anything like this.
Yes, I actually I've written articles for publication, and I've written a short story in a collective anthology, but I've never written an entire book.
Okay.
So it was definitely a journey for me and for both of us,
Right.
in terms of stretching my skills as a writer, because it's one thing when you're writing from your own perspective, and it's another thing when you have to take someone else's story and bring it to life and make it something that people want to read and that they can connect with. So it's been definitely eye-opening and very, very rewarding.
Right.
Okay. You wanted to say anything to her, Yasmin?
I thank her, and I wanted to let her know that the book that she helped me to write and the story that she wrote is getting great 5-star reviews, and I thank you.
You're very welcome, and I would do it again. So thank you for trusting me to help you do this.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for calling in. Just adds a little bit more element to the
You're
show,
welcome. Have a good evening.
Okay,
You
thank
too,
you.
Luann.
Thank you. All right, so where are we at here? We're going to get back to some music here. And so we were took a break there, and she was doing her social media stuff there. As one of her friends were saying, she's doing everything. But we wanted to touch on, you were saying that you made this connection with your grandmother, with the fashion and the sewing and the seamstress kind of stuff. So you want to get into a little bit more about how that kind of sort of moved forward a little bit from there?
Well, I know that every time that I've gone through a dark period, fashion tends to be the thing that I put aside. And I go through my dark period, but the way how I get out is through fashion. So when I went through my divorce, I had a children's custom clothing line that was named after my daughter, which was Yami Wear Boutique. And that came when I was going through the whole divorce. I kind of put that on hold. And when you're a creative person, when things are going through in your life that are turmoil, it's very difficult for you to create.
Right.
Your life really has to be at a plane level or some sort of calm, or where you yourself can function in order to be creative. Because your mind needs that, your mind and your hands and whatever it is you do in your creativity needs to be focused, or else you just won't be able to do it. And once my divorce had gotten through, and I was at a point where I had no job, I had nowhere to work, I had no home. Basically, it was just me and these 3 kids. What am I going to do? And that's kind of where I said, let me go back to the thing that has always been able to pull me out. And that's when I started Let's Journey into Fashion.
Okay.
Which I'm the CEO of, and it's an LLC. I'm the CEO of that company. But if it was not for Let's Journey into Fashion, we would not be here today with Journey Untold.
Okay.
In doing my fashion show, every year I have an annual fashion show in Orlando. And in doing my show last year, the theme for last year's show was Spring Into a New You. So basically, it was more of a personal thing for me, where I knew that I was becoming this new woman, this new mature woman. And I wanted to let the audience know a little bit more about, because what they see on Instagram and what they see on Facebook does not necessarily depict who I am.
Yes.
And the struggles that I've been through. Those are just my accomplishments that I've had to acquire through what all I've been through.
Okay.
But it's not the woman that I am. And I wanted the audience to know a little bit about myself, about who this woman is that was selling and creating these fashions for them. And for the first time, rather publicly, I mentioned that I am a daughter of a mother that suffered from mental illness. And I kind of told them a little bit about my life, and they were crying. I was also crying.
Right.
Because it was so moving. But what I did not know at that time was, in the audience, there was a young lady that was going through whatever it is she was going through. And after I gave my testimony, she came up to me at the show and she said, she believes that God sent her to the show. And I was kind of like in my element of coming down from my own woosah that I just did this. I can't believe I did this. She's like, I saw you post on Instagram that you were having a fashion show, and I just decided to come by. She said, if I didn't see your Instagram post, I was thinking about driving myself into a ditch and killing herself because she didn't want to live anymore. And now I had given her hope to live, and that she needed to focus her life around her daughter and be here for her daughter, because she didn't want her daughter to feel the way I feel about being a daughter of someone that was mentally ill. So it made her think twice about what she wanted to do. And I'm still in contact with her to this day, and she now has custody back of her daughter.
Okay.
A year later. So it was at that time that I realized that, you know what, maybe I have something that could really inspire another person.
Yes.
And give somebody else's hope through my life tribulations. And now, after I've written the book, I've come to realize that, God put me through all those things in life to bring me to this purpose to help another. That's my purpose.
Yes. Okay. Did you want to read a comment that I guess popped in on your social media, one of your social medias.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say that this is the It's Your Perspective talk show, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
This comment is from Hyacinth George. She said, I got my copy of Journey Untold, Twisted Love, My Mother's Struggle with Mental Illness by Yassin yesterday, and I finished it this afternoon. It was one of those books you can't put down. It gave me firsthand account into her life, living with a parent whose mother suffered from schizophrenia and how it affected her life as a young girl as well as an adult. She tells it all, no holding back. I'm pretty sure it took a lot out of her to write this book, just having to relive those moments, and for that I commend her. Reading this book touched so many emotions for me. I laughed when there were moments, I cried, and there were times I found myself even getting mad, but it opened the subject I knew little about, which in itself is a good thing. Now I can be aware of the signs, not only for myself, my family, but for others. I would like to thank you for sharing your life with me, as well as opening and educating me on a topic I knew so little about. May God continue to guide you on this journey.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, that's a very good comment that she put in there.
I thank her.
And she read the book overnight, sounds like, and you know, and I guess it was very encouraging.
Yeah, man. That's what life is. Life is you don't even know that journey, but when you begin, how far it's going to take you, who you're going to touch, who you're going to see.
All you know is a storm.
Exactly. You understand me? So we just asking for that faith and for that hope to go through wherever it is, and give us the strength to go through it, wherever it is at that time that we are going through. Because as again, there's so many people looking, but we don't know that they're watching. You understand me?
Right, hold on. So we got another call coming in here. Hello, talk show.
Hi, I'm calling on the talk show.
Yes, you are. This is the It's Your Perspective talk show. Go right ahead. She can hear you.
Yassi.
Yeah.
It's Phyllis over on St. John. How are you?
Hi, Phyllis. How are you?
Good. I wish I could see the streaming better. I'm having some internet problems. I just wanted to call in and ask you if you think that there's been any progress as far as people being more open about mental illness, especially as you go on this book tour. And I'm going to hang up and try to listen online.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Actually, I've seen people come out more. So the book actually came out after. It was supposed to be released in December 6th, but I started promoting the book before that for pre-orders. And from that alone, I would say about 20 different people have inboxed me about asking how they're feeling. They were unsure about how they were feeling, and they felt comfortable speaking to me about whatever it is they were going through. And I commend them because that opened the gap of their communication with someone to deal with what they're going through. And the way how it's written in the book, it makes you question yourself, could I be going through something as well? And hopefully it will encourage that dialogue to say, well, maybe I'm going to go speak to a therapist. Or I even have a service now where you can text me. I can't do the calling yet because I'm on the road and I'm so busy. But you can text me and I can text back. And you could kind of I'm not a therapist, but I can at least let you know, yes or no, if you're feeling like you're going through depression. It could be going through signs of depression. Even in our children. I've even had a few people said, maybe I think my daughter might be going through adolescent depression.
Right.
And I ask them questions like, what is she going through? Tell me the signs. What have you noticed? Has her eating habits changed? And I ask them various questions that make them think, well, you know what? Yes, I noticed that she really hasn't been eating. She's been staying to herself. She hasn't been going through. And at that point, I would tell them, well, I recommend so-and-so for counseling.
Right.
Go to the counselor and just have her talk to it. And I recommend family counseling all the time.
Okay.
Because even though one parent may accept whatever it is the person is going through, the other parent could be confused.
Right.
And the child needs all the family members on board to really understand what this child is going through. Going through adolescence and depression is a very powerful thing for the mind.
Yes. Okay. You got any any other questions, Soup?
No, just Miss Hall, just continue to stand firm and keep the faith, because I know this journey has not been an easy one, and it's folded you or molded you to make you who you are today. So just stand firm and keep trusting in the Almighty Jah, and He gonna continue to guide you wherever you need to go, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, and anything else that you wanted to mention? And then the reason I kind of keep asking this of you is because we're going to put this on YouTube. So, is there anything that you want to just add to it? So when I put it up there, people that watch this tomorrow or later on tonight, maybe you want to go over your book signing schedule a little bit again, if you can.
Sure, I can do that. Hold on one second. And I also want to go over the signs of depression.
Okay.
Because I think it's important that we look within ourselves to see if either our friends or our family or just somebody you work with to diagnose, not be a self-diagnosed clinician, but to be able to know the signs in another person, to know what to say. Because we as Virgin Islanders, we like to say, oh, get over that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes not everyone's brain can handle the same thing. We all have different minds. And it could be something as simple as telling somebody, get over that. And they really get over that by going over the line.
Yes.
So we have to be careful as how we address and speak to people who are going through depression. So I also want to go over that afterwards. But to give you a little bit about my schedule, I'm going to be signing at Undercover Books tomorrow from 3 to 4:30 in St. Croix. And then I'm speaking at Adelita Cancrine School on the 20th. I'm also speaking at Eudora Kent High School on the 21st. I have Out to Lunch radio interview that same day. I'm speaking to the St. Thomas Healthcare, which is the adolescent mental facility for the children in St. Thomas. I'm on Terrence T. Ideas and Issues on WSTA that same day. On the 23rd, as I mentioned before, we're having a gala. The public is welcome. Just have to come in semi-formal. It is a formal event. I'm an Adiatli morning show that morning of the 23rd. On the 25th, at the Owl and Seahorse, it's at noon to 4 p.m. on St. Thomas. And to end the tour for St. Thomas, January 26th, I have a book signing at the St. Thomas Library.
Okay. So and you wanted to, we got another call coming in here. Hold on a second here. Talk show. Hello, you've reached the It's Your Perspective talk show.
Hi, am I on air?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I just wanted to take the time out to congratulate my friend, Yassin Hall, on the coming out of her book. And I wanted to let individuals know that this is an excellent read. And I was telling her, actually I'm Gigi, her friend, and I was telling her that I determine a good read by whether or not the person can become totally entranced into the story. And I felt like I was her in this story.
Right.
I mean, it was so powerful, it was so emotional, it was everything. And I just really wanted to congratulate her and thank her for always being there for me in my struggles as well. And she's doing such an awesome job. And I've been noticing lately that, God is placing her in other people's paths as well. People crying on the airport, people crying in the street. She's been placed in places where she can help people on the spot. And I want to thank God for that as well. And I just want to let people know that it's okay to talk about it. But what's not okay is to accept the label of being crazy, because that's not what it is. So, Yassin, I want to tell you thank you and congratulations, and, keep doing your thing.
And thank you for always being my friend, Gigi. I couldn't do this without you.
Always.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Have
Bye-bye.
a good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
I wanted to read this little excerpt about depression so that people could at least listen to the symptoms and the various types of depression. Depression affects everyone differently, but most people with depression experience one of these three common symptoms: emotional changes, physical changes, or behavioral changes. Negative emotional changes are among the most common signs of depression, with people shouldering feelings of hopelessness and helplessness as they think about their lives. Not everyone who is depressed has intense
Yassin,
feelings of negativity.
One second, we have another call.
Okay.
Let's see, talk show. It's your perspective.
Hi, this is Jackie Mitchell. I'm calling because I just wanted to make a comment.
Okay, go right ahead.
This is reading about the depression sign.
Yes, go right ahead. You wanted to make a comment?
Oh, you want me to go ahead?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jackie.
All right, my name is Jackie Mitchell, and I just wanted to say I got the book last Monday. I got it at 4 o'clock, and I was done with it by 5:30 p.m. So it was a great read, and it's just a blessing that, Yassin, you're able to share your story and your testimony. You address so many different issues, not just mental illness, but also bullying and domestic violence and sexual assault and all these different things that people may be going through. So I just want to thank you for doing that and for, being open with your life. And just want to congratulate you on all that you have accomplished.
Thank you.
And, thank you for sharing and let you know that I'm supporting you as much as I can.
Thank you, Jackie.
Well, thank you for calling.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Gigi. Have a good night.
Yeah, have a good evening, okay? All right. I guess you can continue on there.
Okay, as I left off, the negative emotional symptoms of depression can be among the most difficult to detect, especially among children and teens who aren't as articulated when discussing their feelings. Remember we discussed that earlier?
Yes.
There are various types of depression, including major depression, mild depression, seasonal affective depression, postpartum depression, bipolar disorder, psychotic depression, and atypical depression. Major depression is perhaps the most dangerous form of depression, with many cases diagnosed. Once you have major depression, it's really hard to pull that person back.
Okay.
And that's why it's considered to be the most difficult. When treating depression, it's difficult to get them back into doing what they normally do in their normal everyday life. Because once depression takes place, you fall into that really, really dark place. No eating, no sleeping, no communicating. You're just a shell.
Okay.
And people need to notice the signs before it gets that far.
Right.
That's the end of the. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that's the end of it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But it's different. I mean, there's more read on breaking down each one of them.
Right.
Okay.
But each one of them have their own 2 to 3 paragraphs. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I just wanted to get it out there so people are familiar with the different diagnoses, that perhaps they can go out there and Google and find out more information about each one.
Okay.
Because there are some people who go through depression because it's the winter season.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the seasonal depression.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and weight loss, weight gain, like I said, stop eating, those are all symptoms. And with me, I notice when my friends going through a slump is usually like, you know what? I haven't heard from so-and-so in a while. Let me pick up the phone and just see how they're doing. And something as simple as listening, not judgment,
Yes.
not commenting,
Yes.
not telling them, oh, you should do this and that. Just sit and
Just
listen
Be that person's sounding board.
and let them vent about
Yeah.
what they're saying. You will be surprised how that can save a life.
Yeah. You feel better.
Yeah.
You feel better when people just. We got another call here. Hold on a second. It's your Perspective Talk Show. Hello.
I was calling for Yassin Hall.
Yes, she can hear you. You're alive. Go right ahead and make your comment or ask your question.
I'm getting a bad connection. Can I call you back again, or?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can
hear you.
We can hear you coming in clear.
I'll try back. You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
I
you.
wanted to ask Yassin, what coming in bad this side, I hope I'm coming good over there. Just wanted to ask Yassin, what made her want to write the book? Like, what was the motivation behind it? Other than the obvious, I mean, how to get the courage to start writing, to get it out.
Okay, thank you for that. We're gonna just let her comment, and you can just listen.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually wrote the book for my son. I have an older son that I feel could use some counseling and therapy.
Right.
And a lot of his distorted truths, the answers are in the book. And when you have a child that is in denial about what went on in life, or listening to rumors that he thinks is his own truths, and won't listen to what I'm saying that is the truth, I kind of wrote it so that I can give it to him and he can have a better understanding of why I am how I am, how I became how I am. Because truth be told, about 80% of the information in this book, I have not told my family. My grandmother is reading the book for the first time, and she's going to learn some things that she never knew about me.
Okay.
And she's one of the closest persons I have. My uncle has read the book, and his response was like, wow, I am so sorry. I did not know you went through that. So my kids are learning through this book as well, things about myself that they didn't know.
Right.
So it's a healing for me. It's a healing for my family to get questions that they didn't know the answers for. And it's also a healing for the community that also had questions about seeing my mother and what caused my mother to have her breakdown. So I think overall, I wrote it because I know it's a healing process for everyone.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you for coming out to the studio tonight. And spending a little bit of time with us, and kind of filling us in on this whole thing of mental illness, and more specifically how it touched your life.
Do you miss your mom now, Yassin?
All the time. The one thing I have to say, cancer is bad.
Right.
But in my instance, cancer was good. When my mom was diagnosed with cancer in June, she was not able to go on the medication anymore, her medication for her mental instability anymore.
Right.
So during the time where she was really and truly coming down to her deathbed, I was called to come to the Virgin Islands because there's a possibility that I would never see my mother again. I had no idea when I came home what I was going to expect.
Right.
I knew that my grandmother said a few times, my mom's mind, she started to know that she was sick and the severity of how sick she really was. So she said, I think your mom's mind is sort of coming back. I just didn't know to what degree. And I remember walking into her room, which is also my bedroom when I was younger. And she sat up and she says, oh, Yassin, my mother has not called my name in 33 years. She didn't even identify the fact that I was her daughter. So in that aspect, cancer brought my mom back for that split instance. And then she died on January 6th.
Okay, we want to thank you for coming out to our studio tonight, blessing us with a little bit of your time and some insight.
I appreciate you doing this for me. Thank you.
Yeah, and as promised, I'm going to just do some very, very minor editing and just put it up on YouTube. So I'll send you the link, and then you can just sort of share it out with your friends and family and anybody that just wants to hear what you have to say about your book and what you're doing now.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So Soup Man, it's about 8:31. Real quick, I just want to say that this is the It's Your Perspective talk show. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, some Fridays, some Saturdays, and even Sunday we do our show. We're doing a special show tonight for Yassin Hall. She just put out a brand new book on mental illness and the struggles that she went through with her mother and all that kind of stuff. Thank you, Soup. Any final words, man?
Thank you again, Yassin. Just hold the faith and stay strong.
Thank you.
Jah guide, Rastafari live, one perfect love.
Yeah, man. And in closing, we always like to say one perfect love is our prayers and His blessings. And when you put it all together, you get one perfect love.
Absolutely.
We're off tomorrow. Tomorrow is not his birthday, but tomorrow is the day that they observe for Martin Luther King. They have a big parade here, I think, in West from Cloud Marco, right, on down to Borough Park. That's right. And Soup will be back on Tuesday. We've got guests already lined up, ready to roll. So on that note, be safe, and I'll let her wave one more time to the crowd.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
All right, that's it. We're out. Peace.